Welcome back to the channel. My name is a-bombfm, and in this video I'm going to go through my final thoughts on Death Stranding now that I have finished the main story of the game. I do still have a little bit to do if I want to complete it and get all the trophies. For example, I've got to connect every single facility to the UCA and level it up, and I've also got to complete some orders on hard mode to achieve a Legend of Legends status, something you can't get on normal difficulty. Needless to say, I won't be uploading this. This will be done sort of in my own time and won't be on YouTube, as Bioshock 2 will be starting up on the channel very soon, hopefully this coming Monday. So without further ado, let's have a chat about Hideo Kojima's first game since disbanding from Konami in 2015. Death Stranding was revealed by Kojima at Sony's press conference during 2016's E3. Not much was revealed about the game apart from its title and the portrayal of the protagonist, a naked Norman Reedus. Reedus was initially on board for Silent Hills, a cancelled game after Kojima's exit from Konami. What followed were 11 cinematic and gameplay trailers, with many more stars joining the project. Guillermo del Toro, Mads Mikkelsen, Troy Baker, Lea Seydoux, Lindsay Wagner, Tommy Earl Jenkins, Nicholas Winding Refn and Margaret Qualley. After over 3 years of confusion about exactly what Death Stranding was, we eventually got an answer. You play Sam Porter Bridges, played by Norman Reedus, an outcast with no ties to anyone or anything except his sister Amelie. America is broken by a phenomenon known as the Death Stranding, causing creatures from another realm to walk the land. Your task is to reconnect America using the chiral network, whilst also delivering cargo to the good people of the United Cities of America. So yeah, it sounds like a walking simulator. You walk or drive from cutscene to cutscene. On the surface, it doesn't sound particularly fun. And yet, it was fun. It had its bad moments, but as a whole, I really enjoyed the game, and I almost feel like I had no right to enjoy it. Visually, Death Stranding is in places one of the prettiest games I've ever played. I was playing this on a regular PlayStation 4, so I can only imagine how this game looks on the PS4 Pro, and when it comes to PC later this year as well. The opening scene in the game, which shows some of the early landscape you'll be traversing, is stunning. It makes the journeys a lot better when there's such beautiful scenery to look at. But it's not always that amazing. It loses some of its aesthetic during the snow-covered portion of the game around Mountain Knot City. The BTs are also presented in incredible fashion. The early cutscene where you get caught in the void out is incredible, and some of the beasts you encounter, like the lions and the enormous whales, are spectacularly well done. Likewise, the game is presented amazingly. There are times, especially during the end, where it feels like you're watching a movie, and some of the ways the characters are introduced into the game are introduced like they would be in a film as well. The scene with Die Hardman late in the game where he's pouring his heart out to Sam is moving, and it's some of the best motion capture I've ever seen in a video game. The soundtrack of the game is also great, even if it's almost turned low-raw into a meme band. Sound design also fantastic, some of the sounds coming from the BTs, and just the general environment just sounds fantastic. So in terms of visuals and like cinematography, I think it's a fantastic game. But the mechanics and the overall gameplay is where Death Stranding ultimately falls short of being a fantastic game. The BT encounters are intense, but at the start they're very, very slow. If I had to do an order that involved going into a BT area in the videos, that's probably the only thing I was going to be able to do in that video. Especially early on, as the only way to get rid of BTs was by throwing grenades at them, which were covered in your blood, hematic grenades they were called. Things do pick up about midway through when you're able to sneak up on BTs and cut their cord with one fell swoop with your cuff. And the combat with other humans, whether it be mules or terrorists, was infuriating at times. Once you can neutralise their scanners, then it does become about stealth, which doesn't work very well. And when it comes to hand-to-hand combat in Death Stranding, it's almost over-animated. Sam ends up not doing what you want, or does something you don't want him to do. Sometimes this is due to the momentum of all the cargo you're carrying. Having to hold down R2 or L2 to retain your balance is tedious at best. And sometimes the force and the momentum could send you down a cliff or in a ravine. The area just south of the distribution centre in Lake Knot City with the ravine was easily the worst part of the game in terms of the actual setting. It was very, very annoying. Driving was also very bad in the game. The bike or the truck you were using would have a mind of its own, especially if you've just jumped over a large rock or ledge. Most of the time the vehicle would carry on and you get stuck, or worse, detonate a bomb that you're carrying. The menus were oversaturated. To pick a piece of cargo, for example a weapon or a PCC, you'd have to find it in the menu using the D-pad. Switching guns was pretty tedious. There was no option to like quick change. it was going back into the wheel menu again. And moving cargo around was annoying, be it from your person to a private locker or offloading cargo, destroyed cargo or used cargo. I'd say the premise and the idea was good, but the execution was less than impressive. The Warzone sections with Cliff were a good way to fit in some basic third-person shooting mechanics and make it fit in with the story. They weren't overly enjoyable, but they were largely inoffensive. The multiplayer aspect of Death Stranding was very interesting. You never saw any other human players in the game apart from a few AI porters. Yet as you expanded the network, you see generators, post boxes and zip lines built by other players. You're rewarded with likes when people use your structures or if you help to rebuild a road or bridge. Some items did have more use than others. Things like post boxes and the EX grenades were virtually unused during my time playing the main story, and they only served to fill up unwanted space on my back. It's a case of the game feeling like there's too many items, I think. Much like the gameplay, the story was a good and original idea, but again the execution wasn't all there. It's a bit of a roller coaster of dullness, and then there's an explosion of adrenaline as you're transported into World War I or into a BT territory. As I said, some of the characters were introduced fantastically. Some of them did not get as much development as others, unfortunately though. Mama had sufficiently less screen time than the rest of her supporting cast, and her story was told very, very quickly. Everyone had their own quirks though, with Hartman dying every 20 odd minutes and Fragile having a distinct addiction to cryptobiotes. Some character arcs felt like they ended just because the game needed to finish. Troy Baker's character, Higgs Mulligan, was basically the game teasing us, with talks of game overs and boss fights. A lot of breaking the fourth wall in this game between Higgs and the protagonist Sam. But when it came to the final fight against Higgs, it was pretty underwhelming with the fallout of that. Clifford Unger's story was told very well. I thought they'd kind of rushed the ending with Cliff, played by Mads Mikkelsen, with him just disappearing after the fight in the Vietnam War. And it wasn't until the flashbacks right at the end of the game where everything made sense that it really fit in really, really well. Another thing about the ending is that Fragile's character didn't really get an ending either. She got what she wanted with Higgs, and that was it. I doubt we'll see any DLC content for this game, but if we did, I'd like to see a lot more of Fragile in that. There were times where the story left me with more questions when all I wanted was answers, and a lot of things I thought were cleared up. I did actually guess some of the stuff fairly early, for example the identity of exactly who Sam was. But the actual story of Lou and like what BBs were still isn't really fully clear to me. In conclusion, Death Stranding has a slow start, but once you get the necessary tools and weapons to progress, you become absorbed by the story and intense battles with the enormous BTs. Yes, it's messy at times, but it's also spectacular. Ultimately, I think Death Stranding did not live up to its hype. It is a cracking game, don't get me wrong, but after 3 years and a dozen trailers, including the reveal, at the end of the day, it didn't deliver absolutely everything. What I will say is that Death Stranding's strengths are very strong, but its weaknesses are painfully weak. There's no denying Death Stranding's a game unlike anything we've ever seen before, and that is what makes it so special. All that remains for me to say, guys, is thank you very much for anyone that has watched, liked, commented on a video, who has subscribed to the channel from watching Death Stranding. It's been an experience and a half, it really has, and I'm glad that you've been along for the ride. I'm looking forward to what's coming next, and that's going to be Bioshock 2. That will be hopefully starting this coming Monday, if you're watching this in real time. If you're in the future, this means nothing to you. So that is going to be the next game coming up, Death Stranding. The main story is done. I'm going to work on the after game in my own time eventually, but it's going to take a long time. Like, I think I had about 60 hours in the game, including idle time, so I don't know how long it's going to take to get all this done. This might end up being over 100 hours if I platinum this game, so it's going to take a long time, but we'll see if we ever get round to it. So that is going to do it for today's video. I've just been showing some footage of me sort of doing a bit of post-game stuff while this is going on. I didn't really think you needed to see my face for this, so you've got a little bit of gameplay, so this is the last we'll see of Death Stranding, unless they do some DLC, which I highly doubt. But nonetheless, if you did enjoy the video, then do drop a like on the video, leave comments, and if you haven't done so already, or if you're new, do consider subscribing and turning on notifications, and I will see you in the very near future for the start of Bioshock 2. Hopefully you'll be sticking around for that as well. Bioshock 1 I did play about a year ago, and it was very fun. So 2 is going to get a chance to see what you can do on the channel, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. For now, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.